If we're given 1/2 x plus 5 equals 7, we should use structure. We need to remember that we want v equals c. So 1/2 x, that's a variable term. It has a variable in it. Positive 5, that's a constant term. It's just a number. And that equals a constant term of 7. We need to get rid of an extra term. So to get v equals c, we need to get rid of our extra constant term, which is a positive 5. I'm going to do the inverse. I'm going to subtract 5. And if I subtract 5 from the left, I need to subtract 5 from the right as well. This leaves 1/2 x on the left, and it equals 7 take away 5 is 2. Now that I have a variable term equals a constant term, I need to make my coefficient, the number in front of x, become a 1. Well, right now it's a 1/2 x. So if I were to multiply by the denominator to all terms, that should help. So I'm going to multiply all terms by a 2 over 1. And on this side, 2 over 1 as well. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So I have 2 over 2x is equal to 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 divided by 2 makes 1. I bring down x, equaling 4 divided by 1 is 4. So I get x equals 4. To check and make sure, I'm going to plug it back in. I have 1/2 x plus 5 equals 7. I found x to be 4, so I will say 1/2 times x, becoming 4, plus 5 equals 7. 4, a whole number, we can make it into a fraction by making it over 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. And I bring everything else down. Plus 5 equals 7. 4 divided by 2 is 2. I bring everything else down. Plus 5 equals 7. 2 plus 5, that is 7. So does 7 equal 7? Yes, it does. So that means our answer is good. To solve for x, when we have 1/2 x plus 5 equals negative 2x, we need to think in terms of structure. We need to get a v equals a c. We need one variable term is equal to one constant term. Well, what we have here is a variable term, 1/2 x, plus 5 is a constant term, and that equals negative 2x is a variable term. So we need to get all variable terms onto one side. Because this negative 2x is by itself, I'm thinking to get rid of this variable term, moving it to the other side. However, we have 1/2 x. So that's not going to be nice moving that around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 1/2 x plus 5 is equal to negative 2x, and I'm going to multiply everything by the denominator in our fraction. It's a 2. So I'm going to take and multiply all terms by a 2 over 1, 2 over 1, and 2 over 1. I'm multiplying every single term by 2 over 1, also known as 2. So this gives us 2 times 1 is 2, 1 times 2 is 2, plus 5 times 2 is 10, equals a negative 2x times 2 is a negative 4x. But 2 divided by 2 is 1. That just becomes a 1. So it really means 1x plus 10 is equal to a negative 4x. I've cleared the fraction. I made the fraction go away. So now we can take this variable term and move it to the right side to be with the other variable term. I'm going to subtract the 1x from both sides. I'm taking the inverse, the opposite of the 1x. That'll be gone. So I have a 10x. I have 10 equals a negative 4. I'm going down 4. Negative 1. I'm going down 1 more. So I'm really going down 5. And now that I have a c equals v, I need to get my variable term to have a 1. So I divide by sign and number. I divide both sides by -5. Negative divided by negative makes a positive. 5 divided by 5 makes a 1. So I have a 1x on the right, and I have a positive divided by negative is negative. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So I have x is -2. And now I need to check and make sure that answer is good. 1/2 x plus 5 is equal to -2x. In place of x, I will make -2. So I have 1/2 times -2 plus 5 is equal to -2 times -2. Well, let's make a whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. So 1/2 times a -2 over 1 makes a -2 over 2, also known as -1. We have plus 5 equals a negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 2 is 4. So -1 and a positive 5. If I go down 1 and I go up 5, I am actually up 4. So now we see, does a positive 4 equal a positive 4? Is that true? Yes, it is. This works, and that means our answer of x is -2 is correct. If we have 1/2 x minus 3x is equal to 2 minus 4x, to solve for x, we need to get a v equals c. A variable term is equal to a constant term. I have 1/2 x, that is a variable term. -3x, that's a variable term. Equaling 2 is just a constant term, it's a number by itself. And -4x is a variable term. Well, let's start off by combining like terms. We have two variable terms on the left side. We have 1/2 x minus 3x. Let's get rid of the fraction. So I'm going to multiply all terms by the denominator, which is 2. So I'm going to multiply all terms by 2, even the constant. 2 times 1/2 x. Well, 2 over 1 times 1 over 2. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 2 once. So really this is 1 times 1 divided by 1 times 1. And 1 over 1 is just a 1. So we get 1x. -3x times 2. That is a -6x. Bring down equal. 2 times 2 is 4. And a -4x times 2 is a -8x. Now that I have no more fractions, I can go back and combine like terms. +1 and a -6x is a -5x, and I bring everything else down. Equals 4 minus 8x. Now that I have a variable term equals a constant term and a variable term, I need to get v equals c. So I'm going to move this variable term over to the left side. I'm going to make all variable terms be on the left side. So I take the inverse, it's going to be a positive 8x, and I do that to both sides. I added 8x on the right, so I have to add 8x on the left. If I have 8x's and I give 5 away, I'm left with 3x's. And that equals 8, take away 8 is gone, so I have 4. 3x equals 4. Final step, we need to make our variable term's coefficient, the number in front of x, become a 1. So I'm going to divide both sides by sign and number. That means I'm dividing by a +3. 3 divided by 3 is gone. I have a 1x, and that equals 4/3. And now we need to check. Make sure that our answer is correct, because it's a fraction, and that may mean that some of us think it's wrong. So we have 1/2 x minus 3x equals 2 minus 4x. So when we plug in x of 4/3, we have 1/2 times 4/3 minus 3 times 4/3 equals 2 minus 4 times 4/3. Okay, 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. Bring down a negative. 3 times 4 is 12. This is really a 1 times 3 is 3. Equals 2. Negative times positive is negative. 4 times 4 is 16. Over 1 times 3 is 3. Well, we have 4/3. We can simplify by 2's, which means we have 2/3. And then we're taking away 12 divided by 3 is 4, so that cleans up nice. It equals 2, and then we have 16 over 3. Nothing is going to work out with that. So what do we do now? Well, let's multiply all terms by our biggest denominator. In this case, both denominators are 3, so we're going to multiply all terms by 3. Three times 2, and then divide by 3, or we could say, well, 3 over 1, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 3 once. 1 times 2 divided by 1, that just means that's 2. Negative 4 times 3 is a negative 12, equals 2 times 3 is 6, and a negative, well, 3 over 1, 3 divided by 3 is 1, 3 divided by 3 is 1, so all of that just ends up being 16. 2 take away negative 12 is negative 10. And 6 take away 16 is negative 10. Does negative 10 equal negative 10? Yes, it does, which means our answer of x equals 4/3 is correct.